Oh, hey, friends. Hey, if I were to ask you, could you tell me all the generation from the greatest generation up to the generations of the babies born today? What do you think are some of the differences of generations? Maybe obvious or not so obvious? Are there generations that you haven't thought about so much? How do you look at the subject? Because here's the thing, most of us walk around thinking we already know this. Boomers, millennials, Gen, we throw those labels around like, oh, we've got it figured out. But stick with me here because I'm about to walk you through the unknown and surprising differences between generations. And I promise you, some of this is going to catch you completely off guard. Now, before I get into the stuff that nobody talks about, let me say something that might sting just a little for some of you. If you're in network marketing, and you're not getting the results you want, for instance, there's a very good chance that you're talking to everyone in the exact same way, same script, same pitch, same energy, whether the person's in front of you or is 22 or 65. You act like it's the same no matter what age they are. And then you're left wondering why people aren't responding. That's like speaking French to someone who only speaks Japanese and getting frustrated when they don't answer you back. Here's the truth. The reason most people struggle is that in this business is an effort. In fact, it's not even skill. It's that, we don't truly understand who we're actually talking to. And the generational differences play a way bigger role than people ever stop to consider. All right, so let's get into it. Next, pay attention not just to the facts, pay attention to how this shifts the way that you see people around you during the day. Let's see if you notice some of this, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start at the very top. The greatest generation, born between 1901 and 1927. These are the people who lived through the Great Depression, of course, and World War II. Everything about how they see the world was shaped by scarcity and sacrifice. They saved everything, they didn't complain, and they put their heads down and worked, and because their survival literally demanded it. That's not a mindset you can. It was forged. Then you've got the silent generation, 1928 to 1945. Now, here's one most people skip right past. In fact, people who are of this generation don't even know it a lot of times. They barely get mentioned. And that's actually fitting when you understand who they are. They grew up in the shadow of all that hardship and greatness, and they became the most conformist generation in American history. Follow the rules, don't make waves, work at one company for 40 years, and collect your pension. And that was the whole blueprint, basically. Steady, loyal, invisible by design. Next, now baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. We've got, this is where everything shifts. Post war prosperity, optimism, the American dream turned all the way up. Boomers grew up believing that if you worked hard enough, you could have it all. And later becoming yuppies, some of them, and a lot of them did. But here's what people miss. Boomers were also the first generation to challenge authority on a mass scale. Civil rights, counterculture, Woodstock, hippies, they weren't nearly as buttoned up as the stereotype suggests. There's a fire in that generation people definitely underestimate. Then comes Gen 1965 to 1980, the forgotten generation. Seriously, nobody talks about Gen. They were the latchkey kids. Both parents working, they practically raised themselves, and because of that, they came out fiercely independent and skeptical of everything. You know what's wild? Research of shopping behavior shows that Gen Xers still prefer paper coupons while millennials go straight to digital. That one small detail tells you or just about how these different groups move through the world. Same world, completely different wiring. Now, millennials, 1981 to 1996. Stop and really sit with this one. Millennials are now the largest generation in the country at 72.1 million people. according to the US Census data. They've surpassed baby boomers. About 39% of them hold a bachelor's degree or higher, making them the most educated generation we've ever seen. But here's the part that almost always gets overlooked, okay? Millennials are the last generation that actually remember the shift from analog to digital. They remember life before the internet and the life after. That gives them a perspective no other generation carries. I would say even more so for Gen X and baby boomers, but that's just my perspective. But they're bilingual in a way that's almost impossible to explain unless you lived it yourself, okay? And then Gen Z, born from 1997 to 2012, okay? The most ethnically diverse generation in history, with 48% identifying as non Caucasian, according to demographic research. They've never known a world without smartphones. Privacy means something completely different to them, and they can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. You come at them with a rehearsed pitch, they are already gone before you finish the sentence. Yep. After that, you've got Generation Alpha. And Alpha is 2013 to around 2025. That's when you had to have been born to be an Alpha generation. And these are the babies and the toddlers and elementary school kids right now. And even I think some high school kids, maybe. Their parents are millennials. They're growing up with tablets, in their hands before they can even read. We don't know how this generation will develop yet, but the early indicators suggest that they will be the most tech integrated humans who have ever walked the planet, obviously. And here's how next. Here's where I really need you to hear me. Next, look at that entire lineup. Every single one of those generations was shaped by completely different forces, different economies, different technologies, different cultural moments. They left permanent marks, right? And every one of them sees opportunity, trust, and communication differently. Not slightly differently, fundamentally differently. So when you're out there trying to build something and you're delivering the same message to everyone across the board, you're missing the mark every single time, because the person standing in front of you isn't just a prospect. They are a product of everything their generation went through. And when you understand that, when you actually see them for who they are, where they come from, everything changes. The way you connect, the way you listen, the way you show up. Now that's the shift right there. I'm here, I'm locked in, and I want you to feel that same energy, because this isn't just interesting trivia, hopefully. This is insight that's been sitting right in front of you, waiting for you to pick it up and actually use it. I did think of it, not the topic, but I came up with this particular post. And speaking of what you know, here's something worth thinking about. Now that you understand people better, the next question is whether the system that you're building with actually matches the efforts that you're putting in. If you want to see how I can connect to something real, go check out the link is in the description below or somewhere above. Take a look and see if it makes sense for you. Don't judge at first, please, and see where you're headed. Look forward to speaking again with you soon. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, and have a wonderful day.